Hello and welcome back to the channel. So far in our tutorial videos, we have learned about Python data types and operators, as well as some built-in functions. Learning these fundamentals of Python programming is cool, but then learning how to or when to use those skills to build something practical is totally different. As we learn programming, we should be thinking of ways in which the skills we learned could be used to make something or improve something that we've already made. When I learn new skill, I like to use it to make something, anything. That's where projects come into play. A project basically lays out the requirements and constraints for a developer on what the code should do or should not do. Working on these projects will test and improve our skills at the same time. At the end, we will have used our skills to make something that we can be proud of. One of the basic projects I can think of is making a random password generator. We could use the skills that we have learned so far and create a program in Python that generates a random password when executed. This video shows how to create a random password generator using strings and lists as our data types and built-in function choice and sample from the random module. So let's get started. When working on a project, it's always helpful to have a clear picture of the requirements and constraints before starting. So in this case, let's assume the requirements are as follows. Generate a random password of at least 8 characters in length, and our random password should have at least 2 lowercase to uppercase characters, as well as at least 1 numerical characters and a special character from a given list. There are some constraints under which the developer will make this program. In our case, we are allowed to use lists, tuples, set, and strings data types, and any operators that we have learned so far. We can also use random module, but we're not allowed to prompt or ask the user for any user input. For example, typically when random password generator are made, um, the program usually asks the user what is the length of the password that is intended, and the user inputs the length of the password, and based on that user input, the random password is generated. But we're not going to do that here. Our program is also not going to use if statements, loop, for loop, or while loop. So when working on any project, it's better to visualize the flow of how you're going to build the program. If you cannot visualize without a flow chart, it's always helpful to have a flow chart on the side and refer it back whenever you need to. In this case, I'm going to quickly show you the flow chart on how it should look like. Our basic requirement is we need to generate random password. So we need to use random module. And based on that, we will randomly choose 2 lowercase and 2 uppercase characters, as well as 1 numerical and 1 special characters. But that's only 6 characters, so we need at least 8 characters based on our requirement, and we'll fill at least 2 more characters to make up at least 8 characters total. And then based on that, we will display the random password that is generated as output. With that being said, let's go over to PyCharm IDE and start building our project. So I'm just gonna put the requirements that we are given up on the screen at the top under comment section here, so that it's easy to follow. So basic requirement we had is we need to generate a random password, and for that immediately we know we need to include a random module here. So we need to import random, and I'm just gonna keep this for now. We could say import random or import choice from random in particular, but we are not sure as of yet. So we can come back to this later and modify it easily. So let's continue. Um, so we need 2 lowercase, 2 uppercase characters, as well as 1 numerical and 1 special characters. So let's import string that lists all the characters, list all the possible characters here. So this is a string with alphabets A through Z on lowercase. Similarly, with uppercase, we have another string here and assigned as a letter upper variable. All the new numbers 0 to 9 are put in, under this string and assigned as numbers. And then these are the list of special characters that we will be working with. Now to get to random lowercase, what we have to do is, let's say we can do something like this. So lower 1 equals, we need a random choice from lowers, letters lower. So, and you see this is a warning here, and we can fix that because we know we are using choice function. We can modify up here and say from random import choice, and that should take care of that. Okay. So that is first of our 2 lowercase characters that we need. So to make another, we just make a copy of this, and instead of lower 1, we'll say lower 2 here. So that would take care of the requirement of 2 lowercase characters. And we can do similar thing for 2 uppercase characters. This time I'm gonna say upper 1 and use this as input to the choice function. And this would be upper 2. So we have 2 lowercase characters and 2 uppercase characters so far. Now we need to repeat this code to get numerical for at least one numerical and one special characters. So we'll say num1 is choice from numbers, and special character 1 is choice from special characters string. And that bit of code should take care of 2 lowercase and at least 2 uppercase, as well as at least 1 numerical and 1 special characters within our password. But we haven't take care of another constraint here. Our requirement is we need at least 8 characters in our password. But so far we have only had 6 characters. So we need at least 2 other characters to choose from, and for that we are choosing from everything that's possible. So we need to create a new variable here and put everything together and choose from that. So basically, pool of character, or let's say pool of all characters, just to make a better interpretation. Letter lower plus letter upper plus num plus special characters. So basically we are just adding these, concatenating all of these strings together to form a bigger string. And if you want to see how this looks like, we can easily do a print statement and show that output here. When we run this, we get a total of 80 character long string, and these are all the characters in that string. That was just to show you how this is working. We don't need it, so I'm just going to remove that and go back to what I had earlier. So continuing with this, I need at least 2 characters out of this pool. So my extra character 1 would be our choice from the pool. And I need at least 1 more of this. So I'll just make a copy just for the sake of this program. I'll make 2 additional characters, or choose 2 additional characters. So 6 total here and then 4 total here to make a total of 8 characters length in my password, but my only requirement is at least 8. Or total of 10, but I have at least 8 characters as requirement. So that's all good. So we need, so far we have randomly chosen what characters we need out of the pool of letters that we were given to choose from. but we have to somehow put them together to form a string. Right now, each of these are single strings or single character strings. So we need to join them together. And for that, we just need to do a concatenation like this. So our password will be concatenation of all these 10 variables, basically. Plus lower 2 plus upper 1 plus upper 2 plus num1 plus special character 1 special extra character plus extra character 2 plus extra character 3 plus extra character 4. And that should add all the characters um, together in forming a password, or that's the idea, at least for now. Let's try to run this. We probably get an error here or not. We didn't get any error, so it's all good. So I want to try to see what we have obtained with this function here. So let's just say print pwd and get the print statement. And that's our random password here. As you can see, our password is at least 8 character long. It has 2 lowercase character and then 2 uppercase character, at least 1 numerical value, and at least 1 symbol or special characters. But the problem with stopping my program here is that every time I run this, I have a pattern here. So my first 2 characters are always small characters, small letters or small alphabets. The next 2 are always capital letters. The 5th one is always a numerical value, and so on, because that's how I set my program to do. So I have to make my password truly or more random, or to basically introduce more randomness into my random password that is generated. I somehow have to shuffle the characters around from from the password that is generated here. So to take care of that, let me say this is just my temporary password, and I want to play around with this temporary password, shuffle the characters around and put them back together again. So for that, let me get rid of this, or actually keep this for a while. And my, let's say, new password. How can I do this? There's multiple ways to do this. For the first way is to use from the random module, we use sample method. Um, so let's do sample, and I'm going to take sample from temp password for the length, for the total length of temp password. And I give a warning here. It gives me a warning. I can fix this with this. And the warning here is because I'm using sample from the random module, but I have not imported that here. So all I have to do is from random import choice as well as import sample. And that should take care of that. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking this as input with the length of the password, which is 10, also as another input. And using those 2 arguments, I'm sampling the text in the password and creating a new password. And there's just still another problem with this. Let's show you what exactly I'm talking about. So if I print the temporary password and as well as the new password, Here's my temporary password. And I wanted to shuffle this around. So this is a shuffled new password, but the problem is this is created as a list with this sample method. So I need somehow to put them back together into a single string format. And we can use that easily with a join method. So I'm just gonna add that here. An empty string would be joined together. And let's see if that works here. So GJFX7 X7P plus 7, P plus 0, that was the original string. And when we sample that, we obtain a list, which using the join function, we join them back together as a single string. And that is the output. So we don't, so that's our random password. We don't actually need this bit of print statement, but I'm just going to show you a few couple of runs and you can see how it is working as intended. So it's taking a temporary password here that is printed out and then breaking that into another list, sampled, basically shuffled around, and with the join function, joining that put together into a single string as output. So let me delete that, and that is all the code that I need. That's our output, new password. So that's the code we have that generates a random password every time you run this code. If you have been following alongside me, you now have made your own random password generator. Congratulations on achieving your first objective, or first project objective. Now, requirement-wise, there's nothing wrong with this code, as you can see, it achieves the objective or the requirements within the set constraints. However, there are several improvements we can make in our code. First and foremost, in this version, we are limited to fixed size of random password. In other words, our random password are always of the same length, 10 in this case, because that's how we set the body of our code to work. To fix that, we could use the random module to first define a random length of our random password, and then fill an empty string or an empty list of that random length. But for that to work, we need the knowledge of if statement and either a for loop or a while loop. Second, we are using lengthy strings to define alphabets, numbers, and characters. We could alternatively use ASCII values to concatenate upper and lower letters, but we also need a string module for that. Lastly, if you see the code, some of the statements are repetitive. Here, these are repeating, meaning that we are not, what that means is we are not reusing the code we created to achieve the same outcome at statement level. We could improve this by using if statement and a for loop. So the bottom line here is that the program might be messy, but this still works. So long as our program works under our requirement, given the requirements and the constraints we have achieved our objective as a developer. Improvement to this code is secondary at this point. In most of the real life scenarios, when we work on projects, we set our minimum requirements and begin work. When the minimum requirement is met, the rest are just cosmetic and optional. So that's it for the video, guys. I hope you like the video or the contents in it. If you want to see similar contents, please like, share, and consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you.